doing Fridays with Frank. Frank, my co-host Paul Hollis, author of the Hall Man series, and Frank Fiore, the host of Fridays with Frank. Frank, how are you? Know you're excited about our guest.
Oh yes, this looks like a fascinating subject, and I want to hear more about what she's
I
thinking.
love it. I
Yeah.
love it. So our guest today is Kara Leo Pardo. Kara, thanks for stopping by. How are you?
I'm wonderful, and thank you for having us and supporting everyone here at We the Studios. We appreciate it.
All right, so talk about this first before we get to this topic, specifically your background, and then we're going to go right into questions from Frank and Paul.
Okay, so the elevator pitch is this. I worked in Hollywood for 17 years, mainly commercials, print music videos. I stopped counting close to 3,000. So um, every major brand that you can possibly think of, certain beer brands that are now canceled when they were lovely doing Clydesdales. And basically, during my time casting for major corporations, I was approached by a network to star in my own reality show. So I was cast in my own reality show from, being behind the camera to in front of the camera. We did the sizzle tape, we did the pilot tape, we aired, we did really well. And something really weird happened. They asked us to cast somebody to come work for me, and I just wasn't willing to do that. This was my business, this is how I earn my living, and I just wasn't willing to cast an actor to work alongside of me. So the blessing in disguise was this opened up my eyes to reality TV and how quick you can make really good TV and how lucrative it is. So I hung up my casting hat for major corporations, and I started a production company, and I started producing reality TV. Again, now I went to every network that you could possibly imagine, right? And so you get leads from them and they say, hey, this is kind of what I'm looking for. And 2013, 2014, we got a lead to find pronoun kids. 2013, 2014. What's a pronoun kid? Look it up. Can't find anything. Go back to the network. Can you please describe what a pronoun kid? And the description was a 12 to 14-year-old child that does not have a gender, and they're living with a pronoun with the support of their parents. And they wanted to highlight these different stories across the country. And for me, that was kind of the last straw. I said, I don't need to do this at this point. I have two small children. I have a husband. I have values. I have virtues. And we essentially packed up and moved back to the Midwest to raise our kids and have two more. It was bittersweet because I love the business. My husband was in feature film, so we both walked away from our careers, just again having values and just saying we can't participate in this. But he said something really cool to me that I would remind him every few years. We'll go back when Hollywood burns down. Well, guess what? Hollywood's burning down and we're back. So, I called my agent and I want to get back into the business. What should I do? And he's like, Kara, nobody's going to buy TV from you anymore. Why? Well, you're conservative. You're normal. You don't have a pronoun. It's just not going to work. So I was essentially forced to start my own streaming platform, which is basically, it's a network. We have children's animation, we have docuseries, we have fishing shows, we have cooking shows, and our log line is TV for normal people. So it's free of political agenda. There's no bias. We have men and women, we have boys and girls, and it's just old-fashioned entertainment that probably most of us grew up on.
All right. Okay, let's go ahead with a question from Frank. Go ahead, Frank.
Well, what you're doing here, or what Hulu is doing here, seems to me just an example of how adults are exploiting children. This is one example. This whole I don't know what to call it. I like to call it sickness of making children, saying that they're a girl if they're a boy if they're a girl, and then turning them over to these doctors that are making money off of this conversion. And I think this thing at Hulu really is. I always saw this thing as something that adults are exploiting children, ending badly with the young girl, the young star that was murdered in Colorado. But anyway, that's how I look at that. Am I right or what?
You're absolutely right. Obviously having my own production company and network, I know how many people concepts go across, how many deaths, how many adults are involved to make a production and to make an actual scene. And it's mind-boggling to me that not one person was willing to stand up and say, this is absolutely child exploitation. This is damaging perhaps emotionally and mentally to this child that's appearing, not including the children that are going to consume this content at home, where the moms and dads are probably in the living room cooking dinner, on work calls, Zoom calls, whatever it may be, thinking my child is watching a dance show that can't harm them. And here it is. It's just absolutely disgusting. And it's It's almost further proof why We the Studios is so important, because we don't exploit kids. Can you imagine that?
All right, so let's go with the biggest thing. The new era faces backlash for John Benet Ramsey themed routine. Explain what happened there.
So and first of all, I kind of want to back up a little bit. They're rebooting reality shows. This is where we're at in Hollywood. They don't even have original ideas anymore, that they have to reboot a reality show from 15 years ago. So that in itself is cause for concern, is the lack of creativity or thereof. So basically in this episode, they have a dance instructor, and she assigns dances to each one of the kids for the competition to win. And she assigns this little girl, 11 years old, and she specifically says, I mean, you can Google it. Please do your research and fact check me, because when I looked this up, I was like, there's no way this is really happening before my eyes. And she says to the child, I want you to know everything about John Benet Ramsey, and I want you to incorporate this into your dance. And so now you have an 11-year-old child researching a murder. Her mother is researching it with her, telling her, you're telling a child she was murdered and strangled in her home and the killer was never found. The home is supposed to be the safest place for any child. And now you're putting that horrible crime in a child's head. And so the little girl ends up saying, I don't feel comfortable with this, but I want to win, so I'll do it. So she does a dance, and she ends it with choking herself. And we get this from the adults, and including the mother. I'm faulting the mother. I'm sorry. I have 4 kids. I don't care what my child's goal is. If my child's goal involves something that is harmful to them in the process, we're going to pivot a little bit and shift what our goals are. So I blame the mom. I blame production. I blame the network. I blame every single adult involved. It's absolutely disgusting. Disgusting.
Now, Paul, I know you don't agree with certain things, but I'm going to go with the point about this whole John Benet Ramsey thing. What do you think of that, Paul?
Well, I agree with Kara that that's a disgusting thing to do. I mean, in anybody's book. I mean, you I mean, who would think of something like this? I mean, that would be
And for a show
totally.
like Dance Moms to do this and retheme it, it's not the original Dance Moms with who started it, right? She's not involved, is she?
No, they have a new host. They clearly have a demographic. Overweight, miserable white woman is now cast in replace of the original overweight, miserable white woman. It's bizarre.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is that if platforms like your platform changing the way televisions work, and we know things like PureFlix and the success that they've had, there is definitely a platform out there for safe content, because you never know what can happen. This topic here absolutely is something that I don't care what background you would have, would be very, very upset with, and it's just clickbait television.
Exactly. And that really just shows the lack of creativity of the people that are currently involved in probably television, because I know as a producer and director myself, I don't need to exploit talent or children to make good TV. I can actually put my thinking cap on, come up with original stories, come up with stuff that's actually not clickbait, and still tell great story without harming anybody in the process. So it's just really, really cheap TV. And they need to be called out on it. There's an alternative for the first time. They've been getting away with it because there hasn't been an alternative to entertainment. We do have other platforms, but they're very either extremely religious or they're extremely activism based, which I think both are very important, but that doesn't really reach the masses. It's a very niche market. So with We the Studios being free of political agendas, not really honing in on, I'm wearing a cross. I'm a believer. I believe in Jesus. He's my Lord and Savior, but we're not hitting people over the head with that, because everybody needs to be able to watch TV for normal people, free of all of that stuff. Let's just have entertainment like the way it was supposed to be originally.
All right, let's go, Frank. Go ahead with another question.
Well, like I said at the beginning, I think this is indicative of what's going on in our society, of adults manipulating and making use of children, and it's indicative. And I think it has to be called out. It can't be said, oh no, psychologically it's okay. I mean, whatever. No, it's not psychologically okay, and it needs to be called out. Now, what you're doing here, you're calling out this particular show and that particular segment is very important, that people should know that this is not normal. Okay, what's becoming normal is the abnormal, and it's being accepted and pushed by interested parties, and we should put the clamp on it. And the media is obviously at fault in producing this material, or encouraging this material, whether it be dressing up little girls as women, or saying that their child should be a boy and not a girl, and vice versa. It's starting at a young age, even in kindergarten level. I mean, this kind of stuff is really has to be called out, because it's not normal, and it's really sick as far as I'm concerned.
All right. Best place we can find information on you, Kara. Where can we go?
So the best place to find us is wethestudios.com. You can join as a member for the balance of the year for $17.76. So that gives all of the content that we have on We the Studios for the rest of the year, wethestudios.com. After you do that, you go ahead to any app store that you have, Apple and Google, and you could download our app and consume it on any mobile device that you may have.
Okay. We appreciate it, guys.
Yeah,
All
good.
right. That was the special Simulcast of the Neil Haley Show.